Hello, folks. You are listening to the Deal by Me podcast, where we ask guests to tell us your story. Your story can be encouraging, inspiring, and very transforming. We are thrilled today to have with us Marjorie Turner Hollman, who has completed four easy walking guide books. And the backstory behind Easy Walks, her memoir of learning to find joy in the face of difficult life circumstances. What a powerful story we're going to hear and view today. I'm excited. I'm very thrilled that Marjorie has accepted to have this interview with this podcast today. Marjorie,
Yes.
again, it's good to have you. I want to first of all begin by just asking you if you would just give us a little bit of your background and uh, a little bit more about your biography, who you are, where you're calling from, and as a matter of fact, where our interview is taking place, and just move forward with sharing it, and we will get a
Oh,
little bit more detail about it as we move forward.
thank you. Yes, I just doing a little bit of background. I grew up in South Florida. I never saw snow until I left Florida to come to New England for college. And by golly, I've seen snow and I'm still not tired of it. So I came to New England to Gordon College on the North Shore, north of Boston. Married, stayed here, raised my children, ended up getting divorced, was a single parent for 20 years. And in the midst of all that, started a couple different businesses. And then everything came to a stop with extreme, I never know exactly how to put it, but a big life change that we can
Okay.
talk about.
Okay.
So I'm in Bellingham, Massachusetts now,
Okay.
not Washington, Massachusetts.
Bellingham. Well,
Yes,
well, thank you again. I'm thrilled, excited to have a discussion with you. I note from just looking at some information on you that you are partially paralyzed. Am I correct about that?
I was totally paralyzed after brain surgery to save my life on my right side.
Hmm.
At this point, I have regained the ability to walk. I can use my hands. There's still deficits. My ankle and foot are still basically paralyzed. So I walk when I'm out on trails with hiking poles, so I don't tip over, balance. There are other medical things that I deal with every day, but basically I I manage and get through. I don't work full time. I do things that I can do from home, like writing.
Well, how many books have you written, or have, or is somewhat like a series of walking guide books? Is that basically what it is?
The first three are what I call hyper local. I started in the town where I live and moved out to contiguous towns right around where I live and looked for trails that I call easy walks, which are not too many roots or rocks, relatively level, firm footing with something of interest along the way. That's what I mean by easy walks. It isn't that they're just flat, that they're paved, can be a dirt or grassy place to walk, but that it's a place that those of us with any kind of mobility challenges can still get outside and enjoy the outdoors. So those were my first hyper local trail guides.
And if I may ask, did you start doing this after you began gaining your health back from your from being paralyzed from the the stroke? Is that when you started doing your easy walks?
Yeah, it was a brain tumor surgery,
Okay,
not a stroke, but
brain tumor.
essentially very
Okay,
similar.
okay.
So, yeah, I avoided writing like the plague before
Mhm.
I got sick. I was not a writer. I was a professional storyteller who said, oh, good, I can talk. I know how to do that. I'll learn how to perform. I did not want to write. I was very insecure. When I got sick and everything was taken away from me, writing was what I was able to do. And a whole series of circumstances led me to how I know how to do self-publishing and am confident in my writing.
Oh, beautiful. I am an author myself. I've written three books, and they came about for the same reason that you're talking about. You know, I had messed up completely. I was an attorney who became a passive gambler who committed a serious crime and spending some time in prison. And while I was in prison, you know, I didn't have anything to do. And I started writing. So I understand exactly what you're saying. You're
Mhm.
home. And before that time, I would not have ever thought about writing. But now, you know, I'm into it. So I do understand that very well. W- what did you, you know, well, let me ask it this way. The Easy Walking Guide books, I assume came out of the fact that you wanted to help other folk get through situations that they may be going through. And this was something, would be something that would help them. Am I correct about that?
Oh, absolutely. I had a website just for writing, looking for ways to be able to do writing for pay as a way of earning some money. When a couple of years after I became so paralyzed, I had started writing just little vignettes of my children growing up. And in the midst of that, I started writing more reflective essays just about what it is to live with a changed life, and even just sort of processing that. In the course of that, I approached a local newspaper writer, and I would recommend that to anybody who is looking to learn writing skills, is approach a local publication and see if you'd work together. I ended up getting mentored in such important ways by this editor who took me on and helped move me along that direction. So I had some of these articles that I'd written just outdoor places. It was an idea that I had that I published in the newspaper and put them up on my website. After about the 500th visit to one of these specific trails, I said, I think there's a need out there. And that's a springboard for a lot of people, for whether it's a business or a cause, is you recognize a need and realize that you might be the person that could help fill that need.
Hmm.
And that's where
Okay.
I started.
Oh, beautiful. You've already talked about a little bit about, you know, the easy walks, how you got started and where the name came from, you know, trying to find a place where there were not many rocks and other things. Yeah.
That's what I need. And
I
so, but I
yeah.
also know there's other people like me.
Oh,
And that
sure.
was, I'm not alone in
Oh,
that.
no question. And I that's what's uh, fascinated me about your story is that I know there are a lot of other folk who uh, dealing with some of the same issues, maybe not the same illness, but who are
Right.
going through some other situations. And you also talked about a little bit why you wrote your book, but I am also very curious about you because you're very amazing, and I want you to know that you're
Oh,
amazing.
thank you.
How do you keep motivated in the face of what you've gone through? Because you seem to be an outdoorsman person. I read where you will uh, get outdoors with your hiking poles and all of this type stuff as your support. It takes a lot of motivation to do that, and a lot of people don't have that. How
Right.
did Where did it come from, and how do you keep motivated?
I'm not sure what makes me different than other people. What I do know is that it does require support. I don't hike alone. The whole idea of getting out and using hiking poles actually came from the man I am now married to. And he wanted to show me these outdoor places.
Mm,
He started recognizing how hard it was and encouraged me to try using hiking poles. I was a tough sell. It was scary for me, but he was willing to walk alongside me and encouraged me. So I would give him a lot of credit for the continuing motivation. We still regularly, that's what we do. Even through the pandemic and all, that was a source of our being able to maintain some stability in the midst of a world gone crazy. So I would give him a lot of credit. I also, as I was starting to write these books, he works full time and wasn't available as I was trying to do all this local research. He'd walked on a lot of those trails. He likes to go on farther, a little more challenging, interesting stuff, not just little short walks. So I found friends. And actually, it was a way of making friends. When you have a quest,
mm,
I find it easier to say, I'm trying to do this. Would you like to help me?
mm.
And surely you have to ask the right people, but sometimes you ask until you find the right people. So I
Did
give them a lot of credit too.
did you find that to be uh, very challenging and kind of hard to do because of your situation, your partial paralysis? Did people readily want to help, or did you find that you had to kind of go out of the way to get this kind of assistance?
What I've learned is that my character trait that has served me the best is that I'm an instigator.
Mm,
And so rather than a sustainer per se, I'll stir things up. I've just been that way my whole life. So if I didn't find someone that was willing to help me, I just asked somebody else. And in my newspaper work, I ended up meeting a lot of people. So that was part of it. And just keep asking.
mm,
And people like, if it's within their ability, people like to help with quests.
mm,
And so it really depends. Um, the other factor I didn't quite explain is that I already knew how to write books because I had come across the field of personal history, which is helping other people write their family stories and self-publish them in books that they can share. So I had done that learning curve. I don't know if you've done self-publishing or if
mhm,
you found a
mhm.
publisher, but it's a kind of steep learning curve.
Oh, it is. It is. And I've done self-publishing is the way I've gone with all of my
Mhm.
books. So I know exactly what you're talking about. Uh, Let me ask you this because listeners of this podcast is they are very challenging. They want to know information, and what always wanted to try to do is to get individuals, guests who can be encouraging, inspiring, and hopefully transforming. And that
Mhm.
is, they will share their experiences and events in their lives that can help others. Now, you are an excellent guest for that.
Well, thank you.
It's coming over very well. So, can you just tell listeners uh, what you think or how you uh, feel that your experiences and events in your life can encourage them, inspire them, or hopefully
Mhm,
maybe transform
mhm.
them in some way. And I know you can do it, but sometimes they like to hear it from
Sure,
guests. So would you
sure.
just kind of talk about that a little bit?
Um, I was not a happy person at all to find myself in such changed circumstances. Very, very frightening for me. I went from being a pretty self-supporting single mother of two kids to not being able to get across the room or being able to get to the bathroom by myself. So I was really angry, and that anger was frightening. What I learned was that there is no shame in asking for help. Uh, I had been really frightened of needy people because I felt like I didn't have much to give. And when I was in that feeling needy, I felt like now nobody is going to want to help me. And thankfully, what I learned was for specific things that I needed, I talk about a term called casting the net wide rather than depending on one specific person. I wasn't able to drive for 7 years. There was no taxi service. There was no buses or other public transportation. So I really needed help for everything to get what my family needed. And I learned, thankfully, I had my voice. I lost my mobility, but I didn't lose my voice. And so I could pick up the phone. This was before email, before the internet was much of anything. I'd pick up the phone and call people. And if they couldn't help me, I'd go on to the next. What felt most important that I learned was you give the person you're asking permission to say no without
Mm,
feeling guilty.
mm,
Because a lot of times it's just that they already have a commitment and they
mm.
really can't help you. But so what I would say was, you must tell me no if this isn't a good time, this isn't a good request, so that I will feel like I can come back and ask again.
Mm.
So if you're not honest with me, you might do something that you're really not comfortable with, but you're never going to say yes to me again.
So what you're saying is always give the person that you're requesting something from the permission to say no.
Exactly.
Oh, beautiful. That's just awesome. That's all I
It,
can say. That's
it's
awesome.
really essential.
Hmm.
And I've
Okay.
passed that information on to many people who find themselves in very different from me
Hmm.
situations, but needing to ask for help. And I
Okay.
just said, here's what I do. The other thing that I have learned, at least when it's neuro, whether it's injury or other health situations, is the saying no pain, no gain is crap. It's just not
Okay.
true. That it, healing takes time.
Hmm.
It doesn't help to just sit and feel sorry for yourself, but pushing through whatever it is that is so painful doesn't necessarily bring healing.
Okay.
Sometimes you need to sit with it and allow healing, whether it's physical, emotional, spiritual, allow the time to get to that place of change. It
Mm.
doesn't always happen instantaneously. Neurological healing sometimes does happen instantaneously, but you don't know when that is.
Mm.
And it's not because of effort. It's doing what you can while you can, however you can, and you hopefully will find change. But there's no promises, no guarantees, but no pain, no gain is not what gets you there.
I like that. Uh, I know you obviously have benefited from your own experiences and your own events that have taken place in your life. And obviously you've been challenged by them, and you have somewhat met those challenges, or you are meeting those challenges. And I want to really commend you for that, and for sharing with listeners that. Is there anything else you would offer people who are struggling to recover from adversities? I think you really basically said it all, but if there's anything else that you want to share with them?
Well, that is the backstory of my latest book, my liturgy of easy walks, finding
Okay.
the sacred in every day and some very strange places. We don't ever know where our life is going to end up,
Mm.
and it is surprising, and it's certainly not clear when they're in the midst of those changes where you're going to end up, or that there's going to be anything positive in it. I, I, I know that it's God works all things together for good for those who love him and are called according to his purpose. Yes, I know that. But in the midst of those working all things for good, it's not clear how in the world any of these things are going to be redeemed. Some of writing that I did that ended up in this memoir it's a topical memoir of my experiences. Some just the writing helped me get some perspective on what was happening. It was also 30 years basically before I could look at all that writing and see how it became a tool for healing. And that's my hope, is that if other people read this memoir, that they won't just read my story, but that they would see themselves in that and be able to say, I get that. This is what would make a difference for me. I can't prescribe that for anybody else, but I can use it as it's the universal experience that you can see yourself. Even if this is my story, you start saying, here's my story, and get some kind of encouragement.
Well said. I know I've said it many times since I've been talking to you, but you are an amazing guest. I do want you to know that.
Well, thank you.
And in spite of all that you have gone through, I have to ask you this. Uh, what challenges do you continue to overcome? I just have to ask you that.
Sure. I'm getting older. I never thought I would see the other side of 40, much less 60. I was in my 30s when this sudden nearly died and survived. I never thought I would live to see my children grow up, and I have 5 wonderful grandchildren that I adore. So the challenges are I still live with a lot of fatigue, compromised balance that puts me in risk of injury. I am getting older. I don't have all of the capacities. Even as I was healing, I'm more keenly aware of my own mortality, but I'm still very embracing life and grateful for it, but mindful that none of our time is unlimited.
Well, Marjorie, let me ask you, where can listeners get your Easy Walking Guide books? Do you have a link
Of
or
course,
something, or could you share that with listeners?
sure.
Because
It's
this is an interesting sharing today, and I know listeners will want to know more about you.
Well, you are very, very kind and encouraging, and I really am grateful for the opportunity to share your platform with you. People can learn more about me at www.marjorieturner.com. And Marjorie's gets spelled all sorts of ways. It's Marjorie, Marjorie Turner altogether.com. And there's all the links on there, 500 blog posts about places to walk across the country as well as Canada, and a lot mostly on the East Coast. But and I have a book called Finding Easy Walks Wherever You Are. If you're not in my local South Central Massachusetts, I wrote that so that people wherever they are can say, well, how did you find all these places? And I tried to document, here's how you could do that too.
Well, there you are, folks. Marjorie Turner Hollman, a freelance writer who has appeared on Boston's NBC Channel 5 TV News Magazine show, Chronicle, Boston CBS news program, the Boston Globe, local radio and cable TV shows, and been published in local, regional, and national publications. Please, please check her out. I know you will be encouraged, inspired, and transformed.
Thank you. Thank you.